Hello, welcome to my channel, and today we are filming the Avatar: The Last Airbender book tag. If you don't know what Avatar: The Last Airbender is, it is an animated TV show where we follow Aang, who is the last airbender. He's been more or less asleep for the last 100 years, and we follow him on his journey to master all four elements to stop a war that has been going on since he's been asleep. This book tag was created by Clockwork Reader. About 4 years ago, I was looking for some new videos to do on the channel where I found this, and I know it's a little bit older. No one really does book tags on BookTube anymore, at least none of the creators that I watch. I'm sure there's at least someone out there that does tag videos constantly. But we just finished the series, me for the first time. I think this is Benson's second time watching it through. So I thought it was fitting to do this tag. This tag has 12 questions and they are sorted into 4 categories, one for every element. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So the first element is water, and for the first question for that, we have Katara and Sokka, name a good sibling relationship. And for that, I decided to go with the Land of Stories series. The first book is The Wishing Spell. This follows Alex and Connor, who have recently lost their father, and they've been in a bit of a slump recently. So their grandmother decides to give them this book that that they've all basically grown up with, basically a collection of fairy tales, and they discover that they can actually travel to the Land of Stories through this book, and their adventure ensues. The first book is them trying to find a way home, and I think there's like 4 or 5 other books in the series after that. So I love this book so much. I love this series so much. I'm only on book 2, so I am definitely excited to read more. And part of what makes this series so amazing is their sibling relationship. Most middle grade series, at least middle grade books that I know, when it comes to sibling relationships, is constant bickering, constant not getting along. But through this, they have each other's backs 110% in the real world and in the fantasy world. And I just love their relationship so much, their relationship with each other and with their mom and grandma. And I cannot wait to read more and see all of the obstacles they continue to overcome. The second question for water is Yue, name your favorite star-crossed lovers. And for that, I went with Marco and Celia in The Night Circus. The Night Circus is my absolute favorite book of all time, and I could not recommend this enough to some people. This is the type of book that I can acknowledge not everybody is going to love. It is very slow. We follow our 2 characters, Marco and Celia, who have unknowingly been pushed into this game where they have to compete against each other. They don't know the rules, they don't know the setting, they just have to compete. What they don't know is it's a competition to the death. And they start to fall in love with each other, which is, of course, against the rules. And it's all the mayhem that ensues in that. But if you're going in looking for a fast-paced book based on that synopsis, you are definitely not going to find it here. This is more about the circus than the relationship or any action that actually happens, so it is definitely not for everybody. I would definitely go into it keeping that in mind. However, I adore their relationship, even through the competition. They're constantly looking out for each other. As they're falling in love, we're falling in love with them and with the circus as well. I love them. And the last question for water is bloodbending. Name a book with an unsettling concept. So I chose I Am Not a Serial Killer. This is the first book in this series where we follow our main character, who tends to show some sociopathic tendencies. He has a list of traits or a list of rules that he associates with not allowing himself to become a serial killer until murders start happening in his town, and he is trying to get to the bottom of who or what are committing these murders. I think that pretty much speaks for itself on why this is unsettling. There's like 7 more books in this series, and I cannot wait to get into more of that. The next element is Earth, and the first question for that is Toph. Name a book whose strength surprised you or other characters in the book. And I decided to go with a nonfiction for this one, and that is The Three Mothers. This is a nonfiction book that follows the 3 mothers of Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and James Baldwin, and it tells their stories of what they dealt with before their sons were born, and also their contribution to the civil rights movements. And I'll be honest, you never really think when you hear about someone who's contributed so much to things that you have learned and learned your whole life about. You never think about their parents or their generations. So I was really surprised with a lot of things that I read in this, and I definitely cannot recommend this book enough to anybody, even if nonfiction are generally not your genre. Definitely pick it up. And the next question is Tales of Ba Sing Se. Recommend a short story or poetry collection. And for that, I chose Love and Misadventure, which is a recent favorite. This is a poetry collection about love and heartbreak and pretty much everything in between. I really enjoyed this and definitely want to read more by this author. I cannot recommend this one enough. I related so much to a lot of these poems, especially when it came to certain aspects of heartbreak. And lastly, for Earth, we have Kyoshi Warriors. Name the best warrior character. The obvious choice for this was the Kyoshi series. However, I didn't want to go too on the nose with that, so I decided to choose a book that I actually don't own a physical copy of, and that is Harriet the Hamster. This is a middle grade novel about a hamster who is not your normal princess. She does not want to wait in a tower for somebody to save her. She wants to be the one to do the saving. I'm 3 books into this series already and absolutely loving it. Unfortunately, my library doesn't have any more copies, so I'm gonna have to wait until I'm actually allowed to buy books to continue on with the series. But I love her so much. She's definitely kick butt. She doesn't let anybody tell her what she needs to do, even her parents. And she's a great character and definitely a great role model if you were looking for a recommendation for some of your younger children. I definitely recommend this series. Element number 3 is fire, and the first question for that is Zuko, a character with the best redemption arc. This one is stretching it a little bit because I've only read the first book in the series, but however, I have heard that this character gets better as the series goes on, and he has a little bit of redemption in the first book towards the ending, and that is Tanjeet in Amelia Fang and the Barbaric Ball. In this, we follow Amelia Fang, who is a vampire with a pet pumpkin, and she meets a prince who, I believe he's a prince of the vampires, and he's just a snotty, bratty little kid who thinks he can get anything he wants, including her pet pumpkin. So she has to go on an adventure to try and get him back. I have heard Tanjeet does have a bit of a redemption arc throughout the series. He gets better as the stories go on, and he is kind of a little bit more likable when this story ends. The next question for fire is Iroh, who is my favorite character, and the question for that is the wisest character. And for that, I decided to go with Dio9 from Heart of Iron. This is an Anastasia retelling where we follow our main character who learns that she is the missing princess of this kingdom, and all she really cares about is saving her companion and robot Dio9 from certain death, and he is absolutely one of the wisest characters that I have ever read about. Definitely one of the most lovable characters, and their relationship through this is super heartwarming, and I love it so much. But he is definitely one of the wisest characters that I have ever read about. All he really cares about is helping Anna be the best version of herself, and he's just great, and I love him so much. He's actually definitely one of my favorite characters that I've ever read about. And lastly, for fire, we have Azula, the biggest downfall. And for that, I decided to go with A Silent Voice, Volume 1. In this, we follow a young boy who is pretty much dealing with a lot of backlash he has received for bullying a young deaf girl that has gone to his school. And in this, we see his downfall from being pretty popular among his peers to not popular at all, having very, very little friends, pretty much none. And the last element is air. And the first question for this is, Appa, name the best pet / fictional animal. And for that, I decided to go with Fart Quest, because there is an adorable little pet bee that we meet about halfway through the book, and she is super adorable, super loyal, and she follows us through the adventure that these characters take. If you don't know, this book follows 3 apprentices who have just lost their masters, and instead of going back to the academy that they came from, they decided to set out on an adventure of their own, and it follows their story with that. This is the first book in a series. I recently read the second book, which you can see my thoughts on in my March and April wrap-up that should be coming out hopefully before this one. Yeah, I love this series so much, and I know it looks silly, but you should definitely pick it up. It's great. The next question is Aang, the purest cinnamon roll character, and for that I don't actually have the physical copy, but I'm going with Biddy from Check Please. He is absolutely the purest cinnamon roll character ever. This follows Biddy, who is a freshman in college, starting to play hockey, and it's his adventures with his teammates as we follow along through his video blogs that he does. I'm talking about his college experiences and what it's like getting along with his new teammates, as well as maybe falling for one of them. And the very last question is Avatar State. Name a character that is stubborn or a character that has problems letting go. And for that, I decided to go with Sabrina from the Sisters Grimm. Sabrina is definitely one of the most stubborn characters I have ever read about. She refuses to get over the fact that her parents are missing, and obviously not that she should ever get over that fact, but no matter what anybody else tells her, even if there's only so much that she and other people can do, she just refuses to let it go, and she just goes against everybody that is trying to help her, and it's honestly starting to get a little annoying. But this follows the Sisters Grimm, who have recently learned that they are descendants of the Brothers Grimm, and it is their job to keep the town that they are currently living in safe from any harm, as well as solving cases in their fairy tale land. And that is the end of this tag video. I really hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more from me, as well as Benson, who's a pretty big mainstay on this channel already. If you want to see more videos from him, I will leave links to all of his channels down in the description, as well as some of my social media links if you want to hear more from me and any updates on this channel or future videos. With that being said, I think that's all. Bye! Thank you so much for watching.